one of the key concepts that basically every leadership book I've read and a lot of people talk about is the importance of reflection. Reflection, reflection, reflection. Being able to reflect on what actions you've taken so you can get better. That's really the only way you can get better. Because if we look at kind of a flow chart of action, we collect data, we make a decision, then we take action. How are we going to make our action better? Well, we need to collect data again and bring it back to the start of our next action cycle. So we need reflection to get better at anything. Part of this, though, is that we kind of have some spots where we can fall that kind of seem like reflection, perhaps, but it's not really a great spot to be in. So one of them is like analysis paralysis. You don't want to fall into analysis paralysis. The best solution for it that I've seen is basically just take action. Specifically, this is something Jocko Willink talked about. I thought it was like, I just thought it was genius, which is take action, but take the smallest action possible while still taking action. And by doing that, you minimize the risk essentially, while still moving forward in a direction. By doing that, we need to be careful of analysis paralysis and also not collecting enough data. And I'll talk about reflection a little bit more in a moment. But analysis paralysis, we're collecting too much data, we're not making a decision. Not collecting enough data, we're being irresponsible, possibly cocky, things like that. We need to be right in the middle. And that's why it's so awesome, I think, to this idea of taking the smallest action possible. Because by taking the smallest action possible, it allows us to act with perhaps not that much information while still having minimal impact and letting us do our reflection. And this is where reflection comes in. When we do that small action, we reflect on it, then we put it into our next one. And since we're taking action in a direction, the moment you start taking action, you're going to find out, maybe not the moment, but a couple actions in, especially if you're just doing small actions, you're going to find out whether you're going in the right direction or not, and you can pivot. And I've been successful in a few different things. Obviously, I'm still young. I don't have crazy amounts of life experience, but I think that the key to success in anything is really this reflection mixed with a spirit of action. Because reflection allows you to have that pivot. In one of the other videos, I might not have posted yet, I might have already posted, I was just saying successful businesses adapt and they focus on a problem, not the solution. That's the same idea here. To adapt your solution, you need that reflection. And maybe that reflection can look different in different circumstances. Maybe for a business that's not really market research, that's kind of before, but that's research that you're doing with your product. You're doing consumer trials. You're doing trials. You're collecting data. And that's still kind of a type of reflection. Maybe for a lot of us, it's just going to be individual reflection. I know that's something I do. And to illustrate the importance of reflection a little bit farther, there's this analogy that I heard, which I think really stands true here, which is this analogy of a boulder. So you imagine a boulder, and it's just at the precipice of a hill. This works for, basically what you're trying to do is you need to make sure this boulder doesn't go over the hill. And this kind of analogy works for things like eating junk food. So you eat a little bit of junk food, you're getting closer to the edge, and if you get too close, your boulder rolls down the hill. It's a lot harder to stop. But this also kind of works with just illustrating the idea of reflection, because reflection is us stopping our boulder for a moment. Could be like 5 minutes. Stopping our boulder, and 5 minutes at night, whatever. Stopping our boulder, saying, is this the path I want to take before we roll down a hill? And maybe when we do this analogy, we can add multiple hills. So our boulder needs to pick a hill to go down. And what we're basically doing is we're inching towards that precipice. And we're just saying, hey, pause. Is this where I want to go? How are things going right now? Before we have a big impact. And that also ties in, of course, with taking small actions. We're inching small actions and reflecting as we go, and then we go down the path that seems the best. So reflection, basically, the idea here that I'm trying to convey is that reflection gives us more control over our boulder. It allows us to choose which hill it goes down, which precipice it goes down. It allows us to choose which direction it goes. Gives us more power and control over the path we're taking. Action is important. Action without reflection isn't so great. Action with reflection is a good recipe for making sure you're going in the right direction with your action. Especially if you're using a strategy like taking small actions and then reflecting, that just allows you to break things up and have even more control.